Hi guys. Okay, so my paper is on the architecture of the Levant during the Crusades and basically how it reflects the cultural exchanges during the time between the Christian Crusaders and the Islamic residents. My primary source is The Guide to the Holy Land by the German monk Theoderic. Basically, Theoderic visited Jerusalem and the surrounding areas of historical interest, and his guide is believed to be written in 1172, definitely during the late Crusades and before the Crusaders were expelled from Jerusalem in 1187, because then he wouldn't have been able to visit. He specifically wrote about the visuals of the area rather than the politics, which is helpful to my paper. He gave thorough descriptions of what he saw, both natural and man-made. He also focused on the architecture, which makes him helpful again. One of the buildings I'm focusing on specifically is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Sorry about my pronunciation, it's rough. Which is in Jerusalem. Theoderic discusses it at length. He brings up the Holy Sepulchre, again, sorry about the pronunciation, quickly. So in Chapter 1, Section 5, titled The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Chapel, Theoderic gives a highly detailed introduction to first the building and then the chapel itself, stating that, it only remains, then, that we should tell of the holy places, on account of which the city itself is called holy. We have thought, therefore, that it would be right to begin with the Holy of Holies, that is, with the sepulchre of our Lord. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, of marvelous skill, is known to have been founded by the Empress Helena. Its outer wall being carried, as it were, round the circumference of a circle, makes the church itself round. The place of our Lord's sepulchre occupies the central point in the church, and its form is that of a chapel built above the sepulchre itself and beautifully ornamented with a casing of marble. It is not in the form of a complete circle, but two low walls proceed from the circumference towards the east and meet a third wall. These walls contain 3 doors, 3 feet wide and 7 feet high, one of which opens to the north, another on the east, and another on the south side. The entrance is by the northern door and the exit by the southern. The eastern door is set apart for the use of the guardians of the sepulchre itself. Between these 3 small doors and the 4th door, by which one goes into the sepulchre, is an altar which, though small, is of great sanctity. On it our Lord's body is said to have been laid by Joseph and Nicodemus before it was placed in the sepulchre. Above the actual mouth of the sepulchre, which stands behind the altar, these same men are shown in a picture of mosaic work, placing our Lord's body in the tomb, with Our Lady, his mother, standing by, and the 3 Marys, whom we know well from the Gospel, with pots of perfume, and with the angels also sitting above the sepulchre and rolling away the stone, saying, "Behold the place where they laid him." Mark 16:6. Between the opening and the sepulchre itself, a line is drawn in a semicircular form, which contains these verses. The place and the guardian testify Christ's resurrection. Also the linen clothes, the angel, and redemption. He continues on with a technical description of the chapel, even going so far as to specify how many people would fit through the doors, 6, or the number of pillars surrounding the building, 10. These depictions of the chapel and other parts of the building are extremely helpful, as they allow me to both visualize the building and understand it in an architectural and more structural sense. To be even more helpful, though, in Part 6, when describing the church itself, focusing specifically on its rotunda, Theoderic is able to compare the Holy Sepulchre to the church of Aix-la-Chapelle, again, sorry about the pronunciation, stating that above, since it is vaulted both above and below, like the church at Aix-la-Chapelle, it is supported in the same fashion on 8 piers and 16 pillars. The lower string course, which runs around the whole church, is covered with inscriptions in Greek letters. Some of the other sources I'm using actually compare the Holy Sepulchre and the Dome on the Rock very similarly, so to be able to draw a parallel between a Christian church in Germany, a Christian church in Jerusalem, and a strongly Islamic mosque, though at the time it was being used as a Christian church, the Dome on the Rock, using my primary source, Theoderic's Guide to the Holy Land, allows me to understand and show how the architecture of the Levant, and in this case and specifically Jerusalem, reflects the cross-cultural interactions occurring during the Crusade.